Okay, folks, welcome back. We're gonna try to knock out some of these things. As I've mentioned a couple times, kind of put everything away in my room. It's more organized than it's ever been, and I have lots of projects that I've started on, just in general. But we've knocked out a lot of them too, though. So it's not like we're not getting anything done, but. We have many cars that we already broke apart, because if you're going to go out there, you don't want to just drill one car out, and they've kind of been left behind. This is one in particular. I think this was a Happy Meal die cast. I'm gonna look that up. I took a picture of it, and then I did a Google search for it, for a Google image search, and it's already been taken apart. And it's already been given a flat coat and a brown wash. So there are probably 12 to 14 cars in the same category as this, and that's what we're going to work on first. So cars that are pretty much ready to go. You know, we can add parts on here. It's not like we have to stop and go outside and spray them and wait for the. Nothing really that involves waiting, other than priming the parts that are going to be on here. Where is that photo? Let's see if we can. I looked it up once, and it was a Happy Meals car. I don't know if it was a Hot Wheels. I don't think it is, because it would have said Hot Wheels has a really hard time not putting Hot Wheels on their stuff. So I think that if we do a search here. Let's do this and view all, and okay, this is a Hot Wheels I found it here. Dicky Toys. Yeah, here's the vehicle. And when I took it apart, I misplaced or used. I'm thinking I used it, but it doesn't really look familiar. The wheels that are on here, I couldn't find two sets of them. So I'm putting different wheels on the front. They look dramatically different right now, because this one still has that chrome stuff on it, and this one's looks like it was gold originally, and it's corroded. But they'll both be the same color. I think it'll be just fine. What's up, Hoffman? Going to be working on your hoplites. What are you going to do today? We're going to work on this guy, which in typical fashion, we've already named it. Now, I want to keep it the same color that it is, because it's kind of a happy shaped vehicle. It looks kind of happy, and I've decided to call it the Grim Reaper. Now, Grim Reaper, you'd be like, oh, it's got to be really dark color. Well, this one's happy. This is grinning. It's not grim. So this is the Grim Reaper, and we've already designed it, and apparently it's a Dickies toy, I think. Yeah, here it is right here. It's got no writing on it at all. And we can probably hot glue gun this thing together, because we've already painted it. So I've got about 12 to 14 cars that I have taken apart, clear coated, and given them a brown wash, but I didn't complete them. Because I wanted to complete one, so I went ahead and did 8. So I've got, I completed one, but 8 aren't done. So I got about a couple, it's not more than 2 dozen. And, they're not vehicles I don't want to do. So I'm going to try to eliminate those, because they're kind of loose in an area. And they're ready to go. I mean, they shouldn't take long. But they're not designed or anything. So today, I kind of brainstormed and designed what this thing is going to be equipped with. Let's see, it is going to have a submachine gun in it, It's going to have a chain gun, which I have tons of them, mine dropper, and it's going to have the taunt and the road warrior perk to it. So let's go ahead and fire up the hot glue gun, get that thing working. Yeah, I ended up pulling some. I actually did a little bit of a show this morning. I woke up ridiculously early, and I couldn't go to sleep. I went to bed really early too, and a bunch of cars that I had from my youth, including some that I mentioned before. My brother had kept them apparently. I went over to go visit him this weekend and said, "Did I imagine you said you had some Hot Wheels here?" You know. He's like, yeah, I think I do. And he pulled out stuff I hadn't seen in 40 years. So, including some that I painted over, including, so I took some of the paint off with hand sanitizer. And we'll get to those. A couple of them was. The Sunny, the Datsun Sunny, has hardly any paint on it left. Had any of the original paint. There's a Datsun Sunny. It's actually in pieces. Yeah, at some point I must have repainted it with red. There's very little of this metallic green. This is the original color that it was. So I'm probably going to burnish this off. So strip it down and repaint it this green. It is a Datsun Sunny, which I had looked up what it is. It's what they call in Japan a Sentra. So it's just a Sentra with a 70s Corolla style thing on it. I think I'm going to call this one Sunny Side Up, and I'm going to make it a Japanese monster truck. I'm going to make this the body of the monster truck. So it'll be Sunny Side Up. We'll have to put a new front on it. I have no front to it. It's got no supports here for the roof. Have to build those, and we'll armor it, so it'll turn out okay. It'll turn out okay, or it won't. Oh, we got some drippage here. What's up, Justin? I'd call you Justinian, but Justinian was a dick. Belisarius was used. I thought when I asked you what vehicle you had, I thought it was a RAV4. I personally get RAV4s and CRVs mixed up. I do. You know, they're similar. I mean, honestly, I get Toyota and Honda mixed up. You know, they're both, great brands as far as I'm concerned, but I don't know if I have a CRV, but I'll look. Your car that you said was basically the same color that the mother-in-law. The mother-in-law had a CRV that was white. About the time period of yours is, so I'm familiar with what it looks like. So we'll see if we can work that in. All right, this little guy. I swear this was a Happy Meal. Let me just imagined it. Bold action German machine gunner. Posted something to your channel. Okay. We got all the regulars here. I guess I should show you what came in today. I knew you were going to want that. I'm not going to ask you if you want to see it. You want to see it. But I'm going to go ahead and do it when what I have primed here is dry. So let me see what you got here. Man, what is that name of your channel? I was looking for it the other day to send you a message, and I'm like, man, I don't remember what it is because I think you've changed it. It should be relatively here towards the front. Oh, their beta testing is whatchamacallit here. I don't know if Ben's on here. They're beta testing State of Decay 3. I don't do beta testing things. It's just like I'll never friggin' play it then. You know, you see all the mistakes that it has. There it is. You posted something new. Visit channel. Shorts, posts. Well, there's something with beans. Oh, okay. Like a mortar group. Fearless leader looking guy. Boy, somebody took their leader hosen. Got some interesting faces on there. That's bolt action. They make their own figures. This guy looks a little Japanese. Just saying. This guy all the way on the right. Oh, there he is. I invoked the Ben clause. Yeah, I heard about it. I'm not gonna alpha test that. First of all, assuming I didn't have anything to do, like you know where all the mistakes are. It's like you play the game unfinished. The game might be an awesome game, but I'll be like, I ain't gonna play it. You know. So it's gonna be all woken shit. You know. It's like, what contribution am I gonna do? Like to that. Be like, you need to make the characters more attractive. I'm just saying because State of Decay characters they all look like ass. You know? I mean, not everybody can be ugly in Apocalypse. Well, apparently in that one they can be. Let the zombies eat them. Alright, folks, I'm going to be right back. I'm not even going to pause it. I'm going to show you what came in today since all the regulars are here. And you guys maybe you'll get a kick out of this. I'll break my own rule of not putting this thing on here. I don't want you guys to disappear. Hold on, I'll be right back. Let's try it with a microphone now. Alright, so this is the stuff that I picked up on Friday. We got a Koenigsegg Gamera, or Gamera. That sounds like a kaiju right there. Gold wheels. Probably a supercar for the brothers with gold wheels. BMW 3 Touring. And I had no intention of getting these, and they were running through, I think Friday, they were running buy one, get one 50% off. I'm like, all right, well, I can get a half dozen. I don't remember if I have this one or not. I know I have a white Supra. Gamera is the turtle. This is G-Mera, like gem, like a gem era. I don't know. I don't need to figure out how this thing's spelled. We'll never own one of these things. I mean, even if we had, $300,000, $400,000, whatever they cost, let's go get an oil change. Well, we gotta go to the dealership for Koenigsegg, like, where's the closest one? Stockholm. Oh, I did get this one. BMW M2. I think this is what Rick, Nerd Burglar. I have to call him. I'll send him a text to see if he has one of these. If he has one of these, I'm going to paint it like his, because I already know what it's going to be called. I think his is like a deep blue. It's like this type of a blue. He's got a thing for blue cars. I don't like blue cars. I'm not a fan of blue cars. I'm not a fan of red cars either, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that right now before I forget. Let's see. Where is he? Oh, always, the fact of repainting it, that's like, okay, challenge accepted. Ridge Raider, I don't know what the F this is. Some make-believe vehicle, but pretty cool. Probably going to be for the Dune dudes. A dollar store is selling Matchbox for $1 a pack. You're ordering a T-72B3 Russian main battle tank model from Meng on 172nd. Well, I don't know how the Meng stuff is. Meng is Chinese. I have some Chinese stuff that are models that are really good. Like I've said before, the Chinese can make good shit if they want to. Range Rover in British Racing Green. So I wouldn't have picked up any of these if they weren't, I guess technically the 25% off. Buy one, get one for 50% off. This is where I thought I was picking up your car. There's a RAV4. This is a lot more dorky looking than a CRV. Oh, this is a 97 RAV4, and here's a more modern RAV4 that looks like it's more like the CRV. Anyhow, this one looks like one of those Subaru Foresters. I don't have any of those. I already know what kind of people are going to be in those. Just saying. Hey, we're trying to be inclusive here. Okay. And then I found out they made this by accident. I was surfing and I found out they made this, so this is an eBay thing. Not expensive, but wow, this is a very limp box. It's not very hardy. A whole lot of packaging in here. Not going to work on this anytime soon. Just wanted to throw that out there. The heavy duty dumper. So it comes with, I have one of these already, okay? I haven't finished it, but this one actually says number 2 on it. So it makes sense that, if you're going to dump a load on people, a little assistant will have a number 2. And it has some of these little things you can drop on people's heads. And the tractor itself looks really good, actually. It's pretty hardy. So the only thing about, it's unusual that, first of all, it has only a single axle here. There are trucks that have, well, no, it's pretty rare, but it's not carrying a whole lot of weight. You know, it'd be very hard pressed to find one that doesn't have double wheels in the back, or at least ones you can move. But it's not supposed to be a realistic game. Duty dumper. So, I have semi trucks, man. I got a lot of them. I just haven't done any of them. I did start kind of figuring out how I was going to build them, but they're going to be expensive. They're like 64 points. So people are definitely going to have to group up against them. I see semi trucks way too often on a daily basis, so I don't get that thrill you may get out of them. Great, another truck driver. Okay. So there's that. You can spend a lot of time like looking in stores for it. It's like, if I'm nearby a store, I'll walk in. Like I walked into a dollar store. I was out of town. I'm like, let me go across the street to this dollar store and see what they had. So I turn around on the line, and there is the display had been ransacked. They do come off. Yeah, they do come. I don't know that they each come off or it comes off as a group, but all right. Let's find us a chain gun. Okay, I'm thinking it's going to be this one. This is the modern one. I haven't used it yet. I'm not even going to look any further. That's the one I was thinking I was going to use anyways. The heavy duty dumper. All right, where's all the stuff that I put away now? Got a couple little bibs and bobs on there. Need to come off here. Somebody made a post recently about, well, actually it was the painting Panzers guy. He made a post this weekend about he got a 3D printer, and I'm like, all right. And I always like looking at like, all right, well, how much does it go for? And I'm like, $400. I'm like, something that costs $400 is going to give me $2,400 worth of problems. Like, no thanks. I'm not that guy, I got plenty of stuff to work on. If I make my own stuff, I don't get to go to stores and explore and see what's out there, which is part of the fun. It looks like this is curved a little bit, and this is not. I'm going to sand this down even. Let's get a surface that's flat. Yes, that's the thing. Like, spend money just to give you problems. Like, if you're going to spend money on something, it needs to resolve issues for you, not create issues you haven't even thought of yet. If you're going to buy an airbrush, buy one that's not going to give you any trouble. You can get away from using rattle cans. Not like one that's going to give you frustration. You're not going to be able to get anything done. I've been there. Okay, the roof is freaking flat. Maybe that one's cattywampus. I know I got a couple of these. I hadn't used any of them. So I'm going to work on the vehicles that are pretty much ready to go. Like they've already had the base color has already been washed on them. Maybe I didn't pull the other one out. Where's that? Bag. I thought about getting some buildings, but I'm not in a hurry to play. I'm really not. I did get sheets for all the vehicles done. They're not all printed. They could be. But the last 20 or so vehicles that I made, I didn't have sheets for them. They were just scribbled on pieces of paper. But that's all done. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go with that one. What do I have that's gap filling? The most gap filling thing that's not the hot glue gun. It's kind of a shame that this thing has a hole on the roof, because I'm going to have to put this over it. There's just no other way around it. Yeah, they have a lot of like pre-made things that look like if you did a little bit of weathering, they'd look pretty good. But I don't want to use whatever name they come with. I mean, you know, if you like come up with your own, if I don't get to come up with my own names, that really takes the wind out of my sails. You know, that's like one of the big appeals for me, is to come up, you know, with what the names are. Like, you see these people all the time, I built this, I don't know what to call it. I'm like, dude, I've called it before I even bought it. You know? Like, that's like the most fun thing to do. Well, this is... You troublemaker. How is this not flat? That doesn't make any sense. Alright, let's grab something that we know is flat. Yep, it's flat. We're just going to glue it on here and move on. Let's use this one. This is definitely the hardiest. Yeah, I'm not a save the earth person, but we waste way too many resources on packaging shit. It's just stupid. It really is stupid how much resources and space we waste on packaging crap. Yeah, I'll never be one of those. I don't know what to name this thing like. That shit's fun. That shit's fun. Alright, let's move this thing out of the way. We don't need Mr. Hot Glue Gun anymore. For the time being. Probably the best, if somebody said, what's the most unusual thing you bought that you never thought you would have used? Hot glue gun. I should have bought one 30 years ago. It's immensely useful. Alright, let's get some primer out here. We're going to prime that chain gun, and we're going to prime the wheels. That way they both start evenly. They're different designs, both of them, but they'll start in the same format. And let's use a brush that I won't have to go out of my mind if something, if the glue that it touches is still a little wet. Won't be here. One of the big fights I used to have when I was priming things a long time ago was you'd prime everything in black or whatever color you would use. It'd work in whatever color, but in my case, black. And you prime it, you got everything covered, you give it a once over, and then it dries, and somehow in the drying process there's this little bubble that pops. And I have some military vehicles coming. Just you wait. I want to finish some of this other stuff that's right here. Every team's going to have a tank. Every team's going to have a tank. Or most teams are going to have a tank. I'm gonna make a Tiger tank. I have this old Tiger tank. It's 1/87 scale that I don't have a use for it. It's way too small. That's going to be the Japanese tank. Or the Asian tank. But why would the Tiger be the Asian tank? Because it's called Paper Tiger. So I'm going to paint it like it's made of paper. Like it's made out of paper mache. That sounds good on paper. We'll see how it works out. And the Urban Brothers, their tank is going to be the Black Panther. So it's going to have a turret of a panther on it. The bottom of it's going to be something totally different. I mean, it'll be something that's tank related, but... And it won't be completely black. It'll be, it'll be completely black, and then we'll paint like maybe some Panzer Gray camouflage or something on it, So it's dark. You don't want to, something that's like bright yellow called the Black Panther. Like, that doesn't work in my world. And then the lowriders, they need some kind of a taco tank or something like that. But the problem with the tanks is there's not a lot of variety for like armament. So they can look totally different, but they behave the same kind of thing, So I mean, if you want like a tank cannon, like you got like a 125 millimeter cannon, but you could, it basically gives you one weapon that it gets to be turreted for free. So, whether you want a rocket launcher in the turret or you want a chain gun would be decent to have in a turret. Or a big cannon, rockets, bazooka, or what they call a bazooka. Yeah, it has helicopters, but the problem with helicopters is you can't use them in a race. Because helicopters, by their nature, and gyrocopters, by the way, they just ignore terrain. That's why I'm going to make that that Harry Potter mobile is going to be convertible. I'm going to make it so that I can switch out and put a helicopter blades on it, and then it could be a copter. But I don't want to make it permanently that way. Even though that vehicle is a quote unquote flying car, I don't want to pigeonhole it because if we only play one game out of 10 with a flying vehicle, then I just basically built a vehicle I can't use all the time potentially. And that matters to me because it's like, I'm wasting my time doing something. But I don't really want to get into the point where I'm changing the rules, to that point. I mean, the rules already say that only one team can have tanks. Well, we're nixing that, okay? Because we don't have any teams that have free shit, right? And the rules, according to, the author, there's only one team can have, and it's the military contractors, can have tanks and helicopters and stuff like that. But then, you underuse all the possibilities of naming and the coolness factor. But that's because in the game, that team, which is called Rutherford, gets a bunch of perks for free. They don't have to pay for them, right? So they've got stuff like, I believe they've got something where, if it's something that uses 3 ammo, they get a 4th one. Like anything that uses ammo on their team gets an extra ammo. And every team that's already pre-built into the game has that. And I just don't like that limitation. So all of my teams don't have any perks that you don't pay for. You have to pay for everything you get. And what that allows you is if you have a vehicle that goes both ways, or it's themed to different teams, you can play it the same way on either team. It's not like, okay, well, when, if I've got like the Flowering Fubuki, right? The Flowering Fubuki is a 240Z that, has the flowers on the side, the Japanese cherry blossoms, right? So it's on the girl team. It can play with the girls, or it can play with the Asians, right? If the Asians got something free, the girls wouldn't get that, so it would behave differently on what team. And it's just, then you gotta have 2 cards for it. Like, it just doesn't make any sense for me to do it that way. So I'm like, I wanted to create new teams. I don't want to go with what the author created there. He even says you can do whatever you want, but I don't want to give them free perks because that could be really unbalancing, right? Realistically, only everything over 40 millimeter for a car, probably artillery, totally overkill. A 20 millimeter probably is optimal, yeah. Unless you're like going after something that's huge, But yeah, any vehicles, 20 millimeters probably. Autocannon, that kind of thing. God, I hope. Nope, I guess it dried enough. I didn't get any on me. Don't get any on you. All right. Do I want to put any kind of armor or something on it? Well, I don't think I want to put armor because I don't really want to make it look super armored when it isn't. But let's look at the mesh here. Yeah, I think the game is solid. I think that there's some perks that I don't think are as good a value as others. Okay? But whatever. I think all the weapon systems, are done pretty well. I think they're done really well. The only thing I don't like is that flamethrowers take 2 slots. So if you mount them in a car, that's all you have. And from using flamethrowers a couple of times, there's a good chance you're not going to... Well, first of all, when you put weapons on a car, there's a good chance you're not going to ever get to use them. There's a good chance you're never going to get to use them. And if you give the weapon a flamethrower, it's got to get relatively close to be used. So you really don't have a very good chance of using it. However, it's pretty devastating. But, I don't want to get into changing shit, right? I don't want to. And what I've just done is since I'm traveling, if I'm playing to somewhere else, I design what the scenario is. Like, okay, we're going to have, the Mexicans are doing this and they get, they get 3 of these and 1 of these, and the other ones get 4 of this, and maybe there's multiple teams, and I don't care who I play. I don't give a shit. It's not about that, And I think the people that have played really don't care either. It's kind of like, they want to try different stuff to see how different stuff plays. Not a big fan of the fluff. Yeah, me neither. But I don't know, is there something out there that you're like, man, the fluff is great? I don't know. When you start throwing Mars in there, like, I'm out. Like, anything that just like, that just like, I'm not interested in that. That's just like, Because, in my alternate reality, right? If you can send people to Mars, and you got the rich and mighty, and you got the people that are criminals, you send the criminals to Mars. We stay here on fucking Earth, right? Like, Earth works. I don't want to go to some planet. I already work at a place that's all like dusty and shit, like with lime rock and stuff. Why would you want to go someplace where you got like red lime rock everywhere? Like, nah, fuck that. No, but he's got a good system. I think it's really well balanced. It's fun. The game has a way of, and we haven't even really used the crowd stuff. We haven't used the crowd stuff, not because we think it sucks. It was just, we're making too many mistakes with the game. I mean, we're kind of seasoned players, but it's just easy to forget stuff. It doesn't really matter. It's not, it doesn't really matter. All kinds of people are making mistakes. They're just not, they just don't show it to you. It's just, you're having a good time. Doesn't matter. Okay, we are going to use, let's use the small mesh here and on the back, and we will use the big mesh on the front. We'll use the big mesh on the front. But one thing I'm not used to in this game is, see, I play historical stuff, and there's candy asses people that play historical. And I don't want to sound like I'm some kind of a badass, but I'm old school, right? Like I want to make fun of everything. And this new generation people that just, the people that play science fiction as a general rule, man, they've got definitely, they're worried about shit. And I'm like, well, I don't really care because I'm not going to play with any of them. But we're here to make fun of just about everything. So you get these people that are all like sensitive, and then you look at their profile and like they're like espousing communist shit, Marxist crap. I'm like, okay, well, your opinion doesn't fucking matter. Everything's sort of, I'm old. You're not that old. You ain't that old. You ain't that old. You're not 80. You're not 85 or something like that. You ain't that old. Yeah, I'm not used to that. I'm not used to people like playing war games with people, and I'm not some kind of a warmonger, but you can't be like all sensitive and then like espousing like protesting in favor of Marxist shit. I'm like, your opinion doesn't fucking matter to me. Who gave you a voice? I'm not used to that shit. I know several people. That they get on Facebook. I'm telling you, Facebook is great for this, sharing ideas. I know several people that have Facebook acquaintances that all they do is just sit, and I watch them. There's 2 people in particular. They just kind of sit there. They're like waiting in ambush for them to say something they don't agree with. And like, that's all they're on is to freaking argue with people. I'm like, if we have some common interest in like, Gaslands or something like that, and you post things that are just like, I disagree with, it's your page, man. I'll leave you alone, Just don't come over and take a dump on my front lawn. You know, like I don't care about changing anybody's mind. You know. Let's see. We're gonna go to this spot right there. We're gonna go to that little spot here, and we're gonna go come across the top. I use Facebook really for this hobby. You get people that all they do is post political stuff. I don't care what side of it is. I'm like, man, that's exhausting. Like, man, go find a hobby. Oh, that looks good. That looks good. That looks goodish. And the nice thing is, it's kind of like a steel color. So I was kind of concerned about not painting this, but it really hasn't about. I was concerned about painting it, but I've not painted several of them, and it's been okay. It's been all right. So because it is kind of a metallic type color, you know, I do prime it a little bit, but I think that's what we're going to go with this one. I think that's about the size that we want. Oh, that's good. This one's skewed a little bit. We got our little trusty. Yeah. This has actually worked really well, is putting little dots. Although I probably should have done this before I put the chain gun on there. But, you know, hey, sometimes my life needs a challenge, right? Mid-70s. So the first models I got a soft spot for MPC. Some of the first models I ever got were MPC. You know, it was like, let's see, it was about the same time period when I had that Justy. Not the, what do I want to call it, Justy? The Sunny. So like 77, 78. I had a birthday and somebody gave me a Luke Skywalker. So it must have been like 1978, right after Star Wars. It was a Luke Skywalker van. I don't know what scale it was. 1/24th probably. Had his big graphics of Luke Skywalker on it. Bet I could find it right here. MPC, Luke Skywalker van. Here it is. This fucking thing. What scale was it? 1/24th? 1/32nd, okay. Snapped together, modeled in color. When you're 7 or 8 years old, putting a water slide decal of that size is like an impossible task. I remember it didn't go well. Somebody's trying to sell that for $76. Good luck, champ. But anyways, I built models like that, you know. That might have been one I tried to do instead of, Dad, can you build this for me? You know, because I wanted to play with it. You know, I remember having that Battle for Hoth MPC set. Had all little TIE fighters and AT-ATs and things like that. Hey, I didn't pick that stuff. That's what was given to me. You know, like, I mean, there's like real planes. Kids probably gonna like make believe shit better. Like, they didn't know me. All right, let's see if we can get away with this. But I stripped some of the stuff, those old vehicles I had, and with hand sanitizer, and I'm gonna repaint them. But I'm gonna knock out these ones that I've already have, like this one. Like this thing's already, this is the color it came in. It just I just clear coated and gave it a brown wash, you know. Every place that I had that there was models to be had, they always had MPC models, which I guess were Airfix models. Well, I think this one was an AMT Erdl, but most of like the tanks and stuff were like Airfix ones, and nobody had Matchbox stuff, Matchbox models. No one in Florida. When I was a kid, okay, I didn't see them until early 90s. The missus just got off work. I missed the last 10 minutes of conversation. Uh-oh. Well, good thing, because you came up. All right, we're going to put this all over the back. This one's a little trickier. We'll leave this little scallop thing on the bottom here. And we'll go 1, 2, 3. Well, we gotta start even, because we got scalloping on that side too. And if I keep it, then the other side won't have it. So let's start off there. All right. Now we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's go 9 and then up. I'm going to go the full one, and then we'll go up. But I could paint that sunny whatever color I want, but I want to paint the original color because I like that. I don't mind being challenged as long as I get to pick what challenge I'm doing. Color matching is definitely something that's in my realm of capabilities and interest. I mean, there might be stuff I may be capable of doing that just doesn't interest me. Just not worth my time. But color matching, I like that. All right. So we're going to come in. Let's go from the bottom here and go in to the first notch. From the bottom here and go into the first notch. Yeah, having this like almost like graph paper where you can like kind of see how it goes is all right. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I don't know that I want to take any of it off. I think that's probably okay. So we'll attach it on the top and the bottom. Get our little doodad here. Good Revell monogram. Kits mostly some Lindbergh. Southeast Ohio was not a hobby mecca. Well, I would say that there's probably, where I'm from, probably had worse hobby stores than you did. Because we don't have a winter. So what I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but it kind of makes sense, is that they say that hobbies aren't as popular. You can just say, well, old people come here and retire. I said, well, not all old people do hobbies. Or not all old people do, older people. Retirees do models, right? Not all retirees do models. So in Florida, there's like stuff you can do outside year round. You don't get snowed in Florida. So that's why, we don't have basements. There's basements. So now you have to give up a room or something in your house. Man, I would love to do my modeling in a basement. It'll always be cold. But that's what they said, is because Florida's, has good weather. I would argue that there's lots of times a year I don't want to be outside. Our winter is awesome. I'll take Florida winter year round every freaking day. Now, okay, caveat. I'm getting to the point where I can't stand the time change. I don't want it to be dark at 6:45. Right now, we still have another hour. That's how I want it. I'll deal with the heat. Actually, this time of year is good because it's cool at night. You know, in the summer, yeah, you get more light, but then it's like you go out there, it's like 85 degrees still, no bug, and it's just, ate up with bugs. Every time I wonder, should I put mesh on it? And I do. I'm always so happy that I do it. All right, where's our? I got a pencil around here somewhere. And you gonna move it over here? Yeah, we'll use a pen. A pencil works so much better than a pen. A pencil doesn't smear. We're going to go to that spot, and we're going to cut all the way up here to there. And then we're going to go across. 5 and dime stores, Woolworth. I remember Woolworth. Did you ever eat at a Woolworth? Man, that was creepy. At least the time that I remember, like in 1983, creepy. Both sides basically the same? Yeah, both sides are basically the same. Alright, so let's start tinkering with this. Let's go to the second one that is at an angle. So not this one, but this one. And we'll cut there. Alright? My dad would always call those stores Densing. I'm going to go to the Densing. And it's 10 cent, but it's, in Cuba, that's what they call them. Densing. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. Okay, so we just got to make it all one like that. Okay, we got scalloping on the bottom, we do not, okay? So let's make sure we pull from a place where there's no scalloping on the bottom. Yeah, 5 and dime. That's like your dollar store equivalent. Except nothing was made in China. You've eaten at a Woolworth. Our local 5 and dime was an independent local store. Was it called 5 and dime, or was it, Larry's 5 and dime or something like that? I think our Woolworths closed about 1984, something like that. The first place I saw that had like good models was this craft like store called Ben Franklin. And I think they're still around. The one we have in town closed decades ago. But they had like Tamiya models in Ben Franklin. And they weren't really a hobby store. They were like equivalent to like, I don't know, like a Joann's Fabrics or something like that, which of course they're not around either. But that was, recently. But they had Tamiya models. That is the gold standard. I am a huge Tamiya model fan. As far as models go. And some people say, oh, they're not a challenge. I'm like, they're not supposed to be. They're not supposed to be, you're not supposed to fight with a model or whatever, Like, maybe if you're a sadist or something, and, you want to, like, do QC things for the other model. I don't mind converting things, but like it won't work the way the instructions mean to put it together. Well, that's a problem on the model company you're using. It's like, you know, if I'm going to fix your problems, then you're going to pay me for it. I didn't sign up to be your bitch. I always hated Lindbergh. Always. Lindbergh, when I was growing up, that was the dog. Of all the models, that was the dog. And Monogram was better than Revell. Revell was better than Lindbergh. Monogram was better than Revell. And then it just started going into the foreigner brand. I don't remember there being any domestic American model brands at the time that were just like excellent. And then when I went to Joann's, probably a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, when I went in there, I noticed that they had models, and they had these models by this company called Atlantis. And Atlantis, what they do is they brag that they're all made in the United States. Well, that may be, but the molds that they have are from like has-been models. So, you know, they've got like models from Lindbergh or whatever that are out there. And it's not even so much that, you know, they have all kinds of different scales. You're like, okay, if you buy a battleship from them, it's a different scale than a destroyer. You know, okay, I get that. But like they'll make multiple models of like New Jersey class battleships. Like they'll make a Missouri and a New Jersey, and they're both not the same scale. And the box is the same. It's like, okay, you got now you're just being difficult, you know. Purdue's. They could officially dated back to before the Depression. One of the kids in the family that played for Ohio State was one of my teachers in middle school. Yeah, did you have a lot of people over there just stay in the same town that they grew up in? See, here we're so damn transient. You know that we got a lot of people that aren't, you know, natives here. Which there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, man, you can't pin people down. All the people that I grew up playing war games with, they've all moved town. You know. The ones I grew up playing. Which is fine. There's only a couple of them I'd want them to still be. I'd still want to play games with, but they're not here either. Let's get this, and we're going to use this little trick. I'm going to kind of dry brush this over the top. Just going to need this just to get the other paint to stick to it. Out of 5 kids, only your little brother still stayed in your hometown. Maybe that's just a thing now. Because now it's like people all over the place, you know. I mean, I don't live in the town that I was born in because my dad changed jobs. My dad changed jobs because he ended up becoming a widower. And I'm gonna speak for him now. I think he just kind of wanted to just start over. So, we moved to another town for 3 years. We moved out of Florida. That's the only time. I was born in Florida. We left for 3 years, and then came back, and then we moved into the town that I technically still live in, kind of, since '81. You know, I'm not one of those people that's moving all over the place. I don't see the point in moving unless, you know, where you live just doesn't have jobs. I mean, you gotta go where there's jobs, but maybe if you had a job that was boring or it was like, all you're doing is like stamping something all day long, like you don't mind having like the chaos in your personal life, but I can't imagine having chaos at work and personal life. Like that's just like double whammy. Never lived in a house with a basement. When we lived in Alabama, northern Alabama, there were houses that had basements there. Ours didn't. I've only lived in one house that was multi-story. That was that house in Alabama. Always, other than that, it's always been a one-story house. Well, that's not true. My condo was 2 stories, but I didn't grow up in it. I mean, I lived there as an adult. I don't miss that. The top story gets so hot. You're like, oh man, I left it upstairs, and you think it's like on the other side of town. And that's back when, I was in shape-ish. I wasn't over fat, so, it's in my 20s. Oh, this is going to look good. See, it looks so much better when you start priming things. And now you're like, okay, all right, we know we're going to paint this, but, we've got black or a primer color, whichever one it is, and the color the rest of the vehicle is. But when you have like a million different colors, it's like, all right, you have to like you got to wrap your head around what you're doing to see, kind of get a visual on whether or not it's even going to look reasonable. And once you get it down, like, okay, we got black and the color that it's going to end up being, like, all right, you can start seeing some order. Only your daughter-in-law and I are native Ohioans. The missus and kids and grandkids are all military brats born in Washington State, New York, and North Carolina. You got New Yorkers in your family? God bless you. I never forget this. As in a semi-adult, in my 20s, I had a guy that I would war game with, and he was from Ohio. I don't know where in Ohio. I honestly don't remember whether it was Dayton or... I think it was a town I'd heard of. So it wasn't like, some podunk little town. And he was getting his PhD here at the University of Florida. And the one thing that always stuck in my mind about him is that he said that he hated living in Ohio because he said there were no pretty girls there. And I've been to Ohio. I've spent, I don't know, a week in Ohio. And Ohio is like not that different from Florida. I mean, you guys have hills. That's probably the biggest difference, right? And instead of having palm trees, you got those little cute Christmas trees in your front yard, those little spruces. But it looked okay. I mean, suburbia in Ohio looked okay to me. It wasn't alien like the Northeast. I find the Northeast to be like another country. I'm not used to being around places that are like really, really old. Like, like here's this house from the 1700s. I'm like, or colonial. Like, I don't do well with colonial. My idea of colonial is, arches, stucco, and Spanish tile roofs. Not red brick and, George Washington looking columns on the house. Not Williamsburg. Not my people, not my responsibility. Not some, well, everywhere. Depends where you are, And I think that there's a lot of cross pollination now that there probably wasn't. It just didn't seem that different from Florida, you know. And we got lots of them here. I mean, I think this is where they grow here. Okay, we are. Oh, let's have a little bit of this on the bottom. Okay, so now at this point we can work on the gun because it's plenty dry. I think I want the body of this, so it's not all gunmetal. I want the body of this to be similar colored to the car itself. And besides, I want a challenge of trying to paint that. So this is why we have a million different colors, because it gives us kind of a starting point. So that's not bad. You got to remember there's no brown wash on this, so it's always going to look a little bit different. This is blue-green from Vallejo. So it's like this. It's got a little bit more green in it. That's actually closer. Emerald's actually closer. Except that needs to be lightened up. It's almost like a lightened up emerald. So let's do a test bed of that. This has glue on it, so let's get this the heck out of here, so we don't have a catastrophe. And let's do this side. You want to blend on the blue. This one will work. And a little bit of agua. Not too filthy. That's damn close. That is damn, yeah, a little bit more white. That's pretty close. All right, so we're going to get a little bit of black. Well, why'd you ruin it when you figured out what the color is? And we're not doing this anymore. I'm not pouring black. I'm not going to try to open the top of it anymore. We're just going to scoop it out. I don't mind using craft paint, but you just make a mess. And let's start with that. All right, so what are we going to put on here? Well, certainly the frame. I looked through my Army roommate from Florida's high school yearbook. Not one ugly girl. It was a very large school. My graduating class had several. Well, they got them here too, but you know. I've lived in a college town, so. certainly spoiled in that department. But then that's counterbalanced with, living somewhere where there's not any good paying jobs. But then the cost of living was low, but I don't think there's anywhere the cost of living is low anymore. After that five letter C word. Alright, let's bring that up. Let's just bring a little bit more of the core color in here. Nothing else, so we need this on, right? Nope. Now the grill's going to be metallic. We're going to do metallic on these, and we'll probably do an overbrush of some of this color to tie it in a little bit more, helps it blend. We'll leave some of these things in the bottom. Some of this dark color there. Yeah, I don't like people talking shit about my state. You don't like my state? Get out. Yeah, there's shitty places in Florida to live. There's no doubt about it. But it's simple. Don't live there. I don't know if I could live in another state. Some of it is just like psychological. And I don't even like the weather here. But actually, the weather isn't as bad as people complaining about being cold. Like, go away. Go put a shirt on. Go put some pants on. When it's cold, when people complain about it being cold, it's beautiful blue skies here. You don't have a cloudy ass day when it's cold. Now we're going to change tack. So we've got this almost all the way to the core color. We're going to go ahead and do the metallic stuff. It's a relatively new car, so we're not going to use the 10 bits color, or what I like to call the 10 bits. We'll just go to the straight metal Iron Warriors. And we're going to need a little piece of this. I got a fan blowing on this freaking. That's the only thing about this place is there's no top fan in this room, but I'm not going to complain. This place is excellent. Other than that, I got a fan everywhere else. I just don't have one in here. This used to be the pantry. We built this room as a huge fucking pantry, and a waste of a pantry. But no, who needs a fan in a pantry, right? If this room was any better, I wouldn't go to work. It'd be too good. So probably a good thing. Alright, we're just going to dry brush this. We'll hit this at an angle, so we'll not go over anything else that doesn't need to be. I thought I was going to hit it at an angle, but we don't need to. I'm going to put a lot of paint on there. That's it, just a little bit of there. The front one you gotta be a little bit more careful with because it has bigger gaps, so you don't want this brush that's loaded with paint to go get in there, and then you can see the metal from the top, but it's not that difficult. And of course, the chain gun. The Gatling gun. All right. Also, the grill. This is a make-believe car. Not sure what it looks like. Nice thing about a make-believe car is you can paint it however the hell you want. Well, you can always do that, but I don't feel like I have any responsibility to have to paint it a certain way. Now, do I still have some black here, some primer black? Let me go ahead and... This stuff is red. Red doesn't belong here. This is not a brake light or nothing, so we're just going to paint this black. And we may paint this the body color. We may leave it black. I guess that's where the taillights need to be. Now, there's a clear part here for the headlamps. That's just not going to work. We're going to go ahead and paint this clear part black. And we're going to paint the headlamps in there recessed a little bit, like we've done in the past, and paint like there's a bulb in there. Looks like that Pinata Skylanders. I know, nobody knows what the hell I'm talking about when I say that. We don't have that one. I'll show you what the Pinata Skylanders looks like. I think it's called Pinata. Pinata Skylander. Yeah, except he's only got one tooth. Kind of like that. Pinata. Alright, that's done, so that's dry. And got to leapfrog to make sure that you can work on stuff that is dry enough to be worked on. Alright, let's bring this up a little bit. We're still not at the core color. I don't know if I will get this guy done by 8. We're regrouping with the tribe at 8, so. Watching TV or whatever it is that we're going to do. I like color matching some of the weapons. That way it feels like it belongs where it's supposed to be. Not just like, you know, what a coincidence that the thing that's not part of this car is all a different color, you know. It's kind of like an eyesore for me. And it's a part, I actually enjoy doing it a lot. I said 8, yes. 8 my time. So 45 minutes. Unless they're not ready for me, then we can extend it. I mean, I could do my stuff whenever, you know? So I'm like, hey, when do you guys want to regroup? You know, I haven't worked on this I haven't worked on any of this stuff in about a week. Because I wanted to fully finish some of the vehicles, and I wanted their sheets made. You know, I scribble stuff down on a piece of paper, and then I move the piece of paper there in a stack, and then I work on another car, and then I work on another car, and I work on another car. And next thing you know, I'm like, man, I need to put this stuff together because I can't use them. Well, I could use them, but I wouldn't have a sheet for them, and I don't want to play the game without a sheet for it. It makes life so much easier. But this is the one we're going to do first. We're going to take them one at a time. Hopefully when I get done with this one, I'll decide which is the next one I'm going to do, and then brainstorm how I want it to be built, and then work from that till I get this pile down of ones that have already been tinkered with. Like this one's ready to go. I just needed to, add weapons and stuff to it. So. Now I'm probably going to take this same color this is in, which we lightened it up a little bit. It's actually a beautiful color. It's almost like a Miami Dolphins blue. Aqua. And, add scratches and shit to it if you want to. Not that it's that noticeable right now. Of course, you really won't know what it looks like until you start putting the drippings and the weathering and all that kind of stuff on it. But the drippings and the weathering is actually pretty quick. Alright, we got kind of the core color that it is right here. Should have everything but the transfers done on these new units. Then your next show will be Shield Transfer Extravaganza. Well, here's the question. Would you buy those shield decals again? And I think I know your answer. But having them make you cut, like all those models that we built in the 70s and 80s, in the 80s, not a single model ever had a decal that wasn't slightly larger than the actual thing. Not this, hey, here's a piece of paper, have fun cutting it. That lazy acidness didn't. Now, there might be some people that like trimmed them, right? But like you've got a decal of this, and it's just slightly bigger than this. If you want to cut it out, that's fine, but not like being forced to have to cut it out. That's just like, man, that's a lot of work. That's unnecessary work. And it's even worse if you're doing one where you can hardly see it. I mean, I'm nearsighted. I'm used to being able to attention to detail and that stuff. But man, sometimes it's hard to see some stuff. I take my contacts out and still can't see on some of those little big man studios. Okay, where does it start? Where does it end? Kind of thing. And those are good for people that don't have a challenging job. Like, man, I don't have any problems. Here, have these little big man studio decals. And they're good decals. There's nothing wrong with them, but man, talk about having you got to put them in backwards. It's like that, what is that, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where you had to walk across that opening. Oh, there's, just trust me. I'm like, no, I got trust issues. Fall back, I'll catch you kind of crap, All right, now we're going to go lightly over this. This is the one we need to hit at an angle, so none of it penetrates through and hits the glass. We'll add a little bit more of the core color. We don't want it evenly. We want it to be like, hey, they tried to color match this so it doesn't look so out of place, and didn't catch everything. Let's go to one that's a little bit. I don't know if this is the correct way to do it, but this method works for me. I would complain about the shield transfer, but the minis took 2 months to ship and another month to get here. I don't know what's going on with Bacchus. Well, as I've said before, my experience with the exception of 2 people, I've almost always ordered things from the UK. And my experience, service from things from the UK is much better than domestic. But that was before, things how they are now. Where you ask for something and it sits somewhere and nobody pays attention to it, and like, there's only 2 vendors in the UK that I've had a bad experience with. And one of them's out of business. You could say, well, why do you do all those intermediate levels of color? Let me just do the first one and the last one. You could do that, but I can tell you it makes a difference. It really makes a difference. Like, oh, I dry brushed that, it didn't look as good. Well, how many layers did you use? 1. Oh, there you go, you got no depth. Okay. All right. So, don't really need to put the headlamps before I do the weathering. I'm fine doing the weathering here because this is where we're really going to see if we like how we're going to turn. It's going to turn out fine, but just really get an idea of where this is going. Let me get some stickum. I think I combined all the stuff I did when I cleaned everything out. a big old wad of this stuff. Let's get the usual suspects of the weathering. That way we're not rubbing off the dirt when we don't need to. It's not a big deal. You just apply it again, but it'd be nice to do it right the first time. Really tempted to get another order of tumbling dice ships, but I need to tackle these hoplites first. Almost got the hoplite part of the first. Well, the tumbling dice ships you have turned out really well. You know? And I looked at their website about a month ago, and they've certainly changed a lot of stuff that they have done since the last time before that I looked at it. Like, they got pictures of just about everything, which is what they should have done from the get-go. Like, you know, it's a lot harder to run a business than it is to take photographs of the things that you already sell and put them out there for people to buy. Just my personal opinion, you know. I mean, I know it takes time, you know, but people want to see photos. People want to see photos. People want to see what they're getting. People don't want to order something and they get something that looks like a melted asshole. You know? Oh, you know what we didn't do? We didn't do black lining. Yeah, we'll do it after the weather. Do after the weather. Alright. Let's get one that's kind of been abused a little bit. You sealed the hell out of those tumbling dice ships, and it paid off. Dreadnought took a tumble off the table onto the garage floor. Oof. You painting in the garage? Man, you got to get all your painting. If you are, man, you got to get all your painting done before the heat cometh. The extreme heat cometh. And you got extreme heat there too. And yours is dry. Although you probably have some humidity as well, but we don't have dry heat here ever. And I just don't believe in buying, get the terrain effects for mud. I'm like, maybe if you're doing like a diorama and it had to look 100% realistic, but using paint for this works just fine. You already have it. I'm not looking for lots of different things, new things to spend money on, you know, or wait for them to ship it to me. Like, I'm fine using with what I have. It works just fine. And I'm not doing 1/35 scale stuff. So, okay, that's enough. There's enough of that color mud, or whatever it is. All right, let's grab U.S. Fields Rad. Let's see where she is. She's right about here now. Large table in the garage. You have a small spot in your work table. You paint on. Work tools are slow. San Antonio summer was very humid. Last night dipped to 40 something. Really? I would have thought it'd been dry as shit. What do I know? You're kind of far from the Gulf, though. I don't know. I saw a diorama that somebody did just today. I don't think I really looked at it though. It was about the Alamo, and it was like something like the Alamo and like all its parts or something like that. I don't know what it was, but it looked pretty interesting. Although I'm not really interested in that war. You know, it's American history. Bore me, you know. There's this guy that used to put on games. There's actually two guys that put on games. Well, one guy's not around. He died prematurely. And somebody would say, well, you know, he was meant to die at that age. Well, nobody should be 61 and dead. But anyways, the other guy hasn't passed away. These two guys put on games that are really spectacular looking. But both of them do American history games. So I'm like, I don't care how good it looks. I just, that doesn't work for me. You know, I'm just not interested. You know, if you're going to do American history, you're going to do Aztecs and conquistadors, all right, I can get in behind that. But you start wearing powdered wigs and shit like that, you know, long ass sideburns that go past, you know, your nose and shit like that. That's like, I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. It's good old Iraqi sand. You have the Gulf right there. It's about an hour and a half drive, plenty of humidity. Well, I'm taking your word for it. I've been to San Antonio. Almost, or was it Austin we were supposed to go? I don't know, one places we were supposed to go. I think we were supposed to go to Austin, and then we were going to go to San Antonio. And it didn't happen because of, you know, the 5-letter C word. Texas World War isn't that interesting because it has 2 or 3 very lopsided battles and a very successful ambush. I'm just not interested in it because it's American history. That's all. Nothing against Texas. Texas does have the best flag, the best state flag. Yep, I went there. It's true. It's like a mini American flag. Tennessee's number 2. It's cool. Not enough of a reason to move into the state, but, you know. Derek, how do you feel about rust buckets? You see pictures on there, people just go hog wild with rust buckets. And even more so, it's like, hey, here's my team of whatever team they made. Miyazaki, whatever it is that they want to. Is that one of the teams? I don't know. One of the teams, you know? And all the vehicles are basically the same paint scheme. I'm like, I'm not doing that, you know? Like, I like them keeping their originality. Their original. That's why I don't mind keeping the original color. It saves me time. It keeps me from having to, you know, make super. Like, let's say you want this color. Well, you know what? You get to see what it looks like. If you like how it looks, you just weather it. You know, it's the advantage you have. You don't have to like, well, let's see what it looks like painted up. I may not like the color. Like, it's there. It's already this color. You know, it's not weathered or anything, but. This thing looks great. Big thing is like, get all the colors. You're going to put multicolors. Just tone it down to like what it's going to look like. And you really can't make a decision until you get that under control. And you start adding these parts, and okay, the parts aren't painted, and it's light gray on a car that's red. Can't really get a good idea of what it looks like until you'd game the War of Independence. Why would we do that than the Civil War? Who'd you root for? I'm not a fan of rebellions. I'm just going to leave that there. What always surprises me, it's really popular, is why is it in the Americas pirate shit's so popular? Like, pirates don't interest me. Pirates just don't interest me. Vikings by other names, you know. Alright, so we got this little guy here. I think the next thing we need to do is we're going to do black lining. We can go ahead and, it's not hurting anything being on there. So let's grab ¿Cómo se llama? Dark tone. Dark tone. I always thought one thing would be interesting If I had to paint those crusty type of uniforms, like Napoleonics and shit like that, I would say, do like Frederick the Great and the Austrians and the Russians. But here's the reality. All the uniforms are similar. Oh, they're different colors. Okay, but the cut of the uniforms are all similar. And I think the tactics of the period are just boring. It's all like line up in a line, make a hole, exploit the hole. I guess you can say that about anything. That's almost every game is about exploiting, But I talked about it with Bitch, and he talked me into like, nah, that's how it all play out. I'm like, all right, yeah. I thought this was a Happy Meal car. Maybe it was just. Well, I just did a quick search and it didn't come up that that's what it was. So you've reenacted several. You can't do reenactment in Florida, man. The list is way too hot. Reenacted several periods: AWI, ACW, Indian Wars, World War II. If I did the American Civil War, it would be a very focused part of the war. I would write your own rules so you play 1 to 5 individual soldiers in a firing line. Well, the first war game with miniatures I ever played was Johnny Red. There was a big group of guys at a hobby store that played ACW. That's not why I hated it. I don't think that the rule system was bad or anything. It covers a period I'm not interested in. Like, if I'm in a historical game, I want to read about the history after I play the game. I'm just not interested in the history at all. Whereas, World War II, I'm interested in the history, and then I can't stand the game because it's not realistic enough, or it doesn't focus on something that I want. But this guy would put on all the games. He supplied all the stuff. He was I was 15 years old, 15, 16. I think he left town when I turned 17 or something like that. He was a professor at the University of Florida. I want to say agriculture. I don't know what the hell it was. Chemists? Who knows? But he had all the figures, and he made his own set of rules for Napoleonics in 6mm, which I think was kind of new at the time, because you're talking about like 1986, 86, 87, 88. I think it was gone by after 88. 6mm hasn't been around that long. Or, it has been around, but, I think it's more popular now than it would have been back then. At least for, something that wasn't micro armor. He supplied all the stuff. He ran the game. Didn't play. He just ran the game. Nobody had a problem with him. He's a nice guy. Fair and balanced. I don't remember his last name. John was his first name. That didn't look bad. It didn't look bad. Let's do some up here on the gun. Ken Burns, ACW makes you want to gain. I think I've. Alright, we're not going to knock him. Isn't he like real monotone and like boring in his speech? I've heard nobody has anything bad to say about him. But is he like. I still haven't gotten through the Alexander one of what's his face. Dan Carlin. It's really good, but I just don't have much opportunity of like getting through stuff. Not if I want to sit here and make stuff. No, the reality is like, okay, I could have just listened to that podcast, right? But I'd rather interact with you guys because the reality is I'm going to stay more on topic doing that than I am, listening to some other thing. You don't think he is, but I also don't think he does a narration in his documentaries. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, not that I'm going to listen to any of them, but I know enough about the Civil War that I could listen to it and like it helped fill in a lot of blanks, right? And I'm not saying I'm a Civil War expert. I'm not, but I'm like I know what order the battles go in, right? And I know what part of the country they're in, and I'm good with geography. So it's not like I'm going in there totally blind, Guy from Georgia, Brad Bukovich. You sure that last name's from Georgia? Wrote some excellent scenario books for Civil War battles are actually playable. There's probably a ton of Civil War battles. I've said, the reason I don't like the American Civil War is because I don't care for the period. If the period was in Europe, I wouldn't care for it, I don't like the uniforms that they used in that time period. It's I don't have a tie-in where it's like my people, like you had ancestors that were in on it. My ancestors had not made it over here yet, so they're still in the old country in Spain picking olives or whatever the fuck they were doing, wearing shoes but picking olives, unlike the Confederates, no shoes. And I think we're going to do the lights before we go and do the drippings. I like the drippings at the end. Oh, missed one. Adding these shadows that need to be there so you can see all these details that they went and put it on this model. Or this toy. Even the shittiest one of these toys has some pretty good detail. Alright, so this front thing here, we're going to paint it like it's recessed. Like you've got a light here, like imagine like a Nissan 300Z, the one that was like the last generation one. It's got like this, actually that's what the headlamps look like. They look like they're recessed. And there'd be a bulb in there, but the outside's it's just clear. Yeah, I do like podcasts because, like, I love to read, but I can't do anything else while I'm reading. And, like, I can't, like, well, I don't really go on flights, but if I went on a flight, like, I don't have ADD or anything, but like I distract real easy, and I'm reading I'm not reading for fun. I'm reading for knowledge, right? I'm reading for let me better understand whatever it is. So while they're reading it out, I'm in my map. I'm in my mind. I'm like, all right, let's draw a map. These guys are over here, and these guys are over here, and they're going over to this place, and it's detailed shit. But I do like to read. Well, the podcast just allows you to maybe hear something that catches your attention and then just listen to something else. But sometimes just doesn't have a lot of detail. But this Alexander one has a shitload of detail. I have a feeling a fair amount of it is not going to say made up, but just elaborate on it, because there's just not that much stuff written. But I haven't read Arian before, so you know. I prefer to read primary sources, but some of these things just don't have primary source material to read. Been watching Tubi a lot. You probably said this, but I like that they don't shove ads down your throat. Well, all right, so let's put ads on different levels of ads. None of us like any ads, right? But there's different levels of ads. The worst ads of all are radio ads. Radio ads are annoying as shit. Okay? I know you probably haven't listened, or maybe you probably haven't listened to radio in a while. I haven't. But radio ads are the worst. Then TV, then the ones you get by, Hulu or Tubi or whatever, the other Pluto or whatever, they're not that annoying. You know when they're coming up, they're all bunched together, and there's a big space between them and the next ad. I mean, you watch a movie, and how many sets of ads are there going to be? 4 at the most? Like, it's not that bad, At least they're not for freaking attorneys, You don't have to have attorney ads. Unlike billboards. Nobody'd advertise on billboards if attorneys couldn't. Okay, we're going to do a little light like the Ford Escort or the Ford Focus. Same thing. So how did we do that one? It's been a while since I did it. I nailed it, and I'm like, oh, I want to keep doing it that way. ¿Dónde está this little guy right here? Oh. One of my favorite vehicles. And it's because there's just so much cool ads that they did on. Okay. Alright, so we did do some shading on this along the bottom. Okay, and then inside there we'll do the little semicircle with the light. Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind the commercials on. It gives you a chance, like get up and pee and stuff like that. Like I'm always when I'm watching stuff with the family, I'm always drinking something, and I've been drinking. I haven't bought soda in like a couple of months now. I mean, I'm not having caffeine, but the tea makes me pee a lot. I mean, I can hold it, but who wants to be uncomfortable? I guess somebody's into that, but it isn't me. Okay, let's see if this is, this is thin enough. All right, so we're going to do a little semicircle here. And a little semicircle here. And we're going to do a dot up here. And a little dot up here. And it really looks like eyes now. But that just reflects that there's like a little light bulb in there. The problem I've noticed is we have access, all of us, to more things than we ever have. And it's probably more and more each day. So when something isn't great, I'll stop watching it. So it's almost like, if you start watching something and it isn't wonderful, I just lose interest. I was waiting for the daughter to get back because they got that Netflix thing with the dinosaurs thing, and it's just kind of it's a little disappointing. It's a little too. First of all, it's kind of bummed out that they've made up all these damn dinosaurs that didn't exist before, and really predictable how these scenarios play out, but. Okay. Good. All right. Let's go on this very, very gentle. Ever come across anything good on Tubi? Let me know. I've been watching Ultraman shows and old Scooby Doo. Well, you know why you're watching old Scooby Doo episodes? Because you didn't have to watch it when you were a kid. Like I didn't. I didn't hate it, but it's extremely predictable. That's all we had to watch. That's all we had to watch. Like, there wasn't anything to watch. You got Johnny Quest on there, the old one. Used to love to watch that with my dad. That's one of the shows that I always have memories of watching it with my dad. That and Hogan's Heroes. Okay. Tony's Tones. Hold on a second. Let me check on that. Let me check with my people. All right, folks, I will be back on, but I need like 10 minutes. So we're just going to do a little intermission. We'll be right back. All right, we're coming, we're coming, we're coming, we're coming. All right, let's see if we can knock out the rest of this little guy. The Grim Reaper. You watched an odd Korean anime called Bagel Girl. You sure she's Korean? Oh, the anime's Korean. It has a few episodes, but only has subtitles. You could binge watch in the evening. You like different stuff? I'm going to get going. Okay. All right. Bagel Girl. Drippings, right? That's what we got to do. Drippings. Become one with the drippings. All right. The drippings, of course, are soft tone, mid brown, and light tone. And man, we are scraping bottom with these. There is not much left of them. And I would have bought more, but I really need to sit down and realize what they're called. I don't think the mid brown exists anymore. I think the mid brown is now called like deep red or something like. It's awfully red, like I did some like blood on the butcher truck, and well, why'd you do blood on it? Well, it's got like a meat chopper. You know, there weren't any carcasses or anything like that, but you know, it was definitely had some issues there. All right, let's do this fine brush. Oh, and taillights. Yeah, we could do the taillights last. Let's take a look at what we got here. And that way tomorrow we can start working on yet another one. I think I know which one I'm going to do tomorrow. I think we're going to do the one, I think we're going to call him Metalhead. And it is a metallic Dodge Dart that's got some patriotic stuff on it. You guys want to see it? Of course you want to see it. I'll steal my thunder and somebody else's. Let's see, where is... And it's already been, you know, it already has a black wash. I don't know how it's going to be armed with. It's probably going to have a 30 cal. I'll bring it here without the windscreen. It's a Dodge Dart, like a 60-something Dart. 68 Dodge Dart. It's got heavy metal written on it. It's a Hot Wheels. It's what year is it? 2010. Yeah, it's got a nice front to it. Probably have a 30 cal on it. Probably not going to have a ram on it. So. I think that's the one we're going to do next. All right, so we got this stuff that these guys welded on here. Well, so it rained, and then there's rust that accumulated up here. This is a Bob Ross equivalent of the happy little tree right here. There's a happy little rust spot here. My earlier vehicles don't have this. And you can go back and add this if you want to. I just haven't done it. I really like this part a lot. Not excessive. Although there are some vehicles that are pretty chipped up pretty bad, and instead of trying to patch them up, I think what I may just do is add rust to those places, kind of like how I did with the Bronco. I was pretty happy with the way that turned out. Oh yeah, any place there's fuel, they just made a freaking huge spill there. I don't know what car this is based on, or mostly influenced by. It almost looks like one of those Lexus RCFs, but like a tuned version of it, something like that. That's why I don't like adding a bunch of like punk ass armor. Best way to describe it. Mad Max punk ass armor on every vehicle, because then you just all kind of look the same, you know. Do a little round taillights inside this, whatever this thing is. And you know what I was saying, I don't know if I got around to saying this, I don't think I did, but the reason I don't really care for, or I wouldn't consider making a team where they all look the same, is first of all, it's boring. And you know, you got to paint. You know, if you're going to make a whole team that looks similar, you got to decide how many cars are going to be on the team. I mean, I guess you could add other bodies to it later, but you know, you're committing to painting at least 4 vehicles in a similar fashion. Where I'd just rather just not have to have those constraints. I can paint them however I want. Okay, rust is going to be right here where it got welded to this. This stuff is so good. I mean, it's just so friendly to use. There's no smell, no mess. It thins with water really well. It blends with the water really well. See, the way I go about this is like, this is a land where there's no environmental controls. So there's acid rain, there's all kinds of bad shit. There's all kinds of fallout, so to speak, without it being radioactive. we should be good. We're just having to do some planning on just going back to school tomorrow. Just trying to do some planning on how we're going to move her out, because that's coming out soon. So. Let's do the same thing up here. Spot welded that on there. So, we technically, we got this car done in one day. So, these cars that we already started on, like this one, could probably do one a day. Because we've already done something on it. As long as I've already kind of pre-designed how they're gonna be. We got something over here. It looks like could be some rust forming here. Discoloration. All right, let's do the rear lights. I can do whatever the hell I want with them because it's not a real vehicle. So we're going to start off with red. That's primer black, not true black. Let's not mix that in. Overkill. Nothing comes out, nothing comes out, nothing comes out. Oh, too much, oh shit. I broke my own damn rule. With years of doing it one way. Let's put this up here so we don't end up rubbing these drippings off. That way we can take photos, post the pictures, and see who's nasty to me, and I'll have to block. I'll have to block them. You're gonna be nasty as hobby. I just block you. Like you're dead to me. I don't do this hobby to find things to complain about. Now I don't want to wipe this color off. So So I'm going to thin it down a little bit so I can work it, and then we're going to stipple it. So that way we don't put the color there and then remove it at the same time with the same action. Stipple is probably the easiest way I can describe it. Well, that's probably not 100% accurate either. Oh, I've got a vibration here. What do we have here? Let's see. Honestly, it's pretty darn close. Is that a 23 series? Yes. That was Rick finally answering me on his car. That's good because I got something. I know exactly what we're going to do with it. That's how it'll be. I think we're done. Now the cool thing about it is when I started this, I wasn't real chipper on the wheels. Almost every vehicle you get will come with the same 4-size wheels. Almost always. There's exceptions, but almost every vehicle, unless it's like a dragster or a funny car or something really extreme. So in this case, I could only find, this is the wheels that came with originally because they fit right in the fender well, right there, and I couldn't find the other set. I have a feeling I used them for something else. I haven't done that very many times, but sometimes you need to. It just doesn't work. And I'm sure I could probably look through all my vehicles and find out which one is the one I used them on. Because they weren't here. So then, this one I believe are the wheels a set of wheels that came from, I got like an Irish car that has like I picked it up in the junkyard. We'll call it the junkyard because literally it's like this pile of like cars and you sift through it and it's the land of unloved toys at this place. And it was like a leprechaun car that had it had a hot tub, and in the hot tub there was a steering wheel. Something ridiculous and way over the top. Well, this is the front wheels from that. The back wheels are really big, like a funny car. It looks kind of like a dragster or whatever. So I'm like, all right, I'll put these on, and it looked very dissimilar because like this had like the chrome detailing on it, and this one was just all black and kind of rusty. But gave them the same treatment, and they're similar in style, and they don't really look out of place. So that was a win. But again, you don't know until you like paint it and then see that it all goes together and it's not fighting itself kind of thing, for attention. So I think this looks pretty good. I think this thing turned out pretty well. Let me take a photo of it. See what you guys think. Again, this is easy. I do this so, you guys have something to listen to and just show you how freaking easy it is to do this. And this is the original color it was in. And it doesn't look that great in lighting here. We gotta adjust the lighting so it looks more like. But I'm pretty happy with that. So this is the Grin Reaper. And you know what? It did, between the face and the dirt on it and the drippings and rustification in places, it does look more sinister than it did originally. When we first started working on this, it looked a little too, kumbaya, you know. But this needs to hunt people down. I mean, you know, you face this thing, it's like, you know, he gonna kill you, you know, as opposed to, you know, this is definitely looks like something a maniac could drive. Well, that's a good thing. All right, folks, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you guys on the next one, and we're probably going to do the dart or something like that.